Right.
So there's going to have to be some introduction, some kind of influence there as to how you would then get somebody to at least embrace where they are and what are some positive steps
Right.
that you can kind of move towards versus continuing to move away.
Right. And I did hear one of your boundary markers, one of the kind of the warning markers for folks who are on the inside is we don't tolerate gossip.
Right.
That in a sense it functions as a boundary marker, because on the other side of that, you're disrupting community. You're out, and you need to come back.
Well, the interesting thing on that one was that early on, Brian used to say quite vociferously from the pulpit that there in Scripture it never talks about thou shalt not dance and thou shalt not party and
right.
But it does say explicitly over and over again about thou shalt not gossip, and yet we focus on people who are smokers and say you're in sin versus the people that they're talking about and saying, oh, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's actually not you're in sin, it's so and so's in sin.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you hear that,
right. So all of a sudden now, we've just kind of glossed over those things that are very explicit in Scripture, and really we need to be holding ourselves accountable to. And that kind of gets back to that covenant that I was talking about before. Whether or not it's explicit about saying, have you gossiped, there's always that underlying tenet, that kind of stuff comes out.
Right, okay. But I don't want to gossip, but I think Scott has some serious spiritual issues.
I knew that before he came, but I was hoping that today's session...
That's right, this is really for me. It's not about you, it's about me.
It's always about Scott.
It's always about Scott, yes. So, all right, our final question is this, and you guys have mentioned it already again, and it's kind of neat for me. We've had folks from all different types of church backgrounds, denominational backgrounds, so it'd be neat to hear your perspective on this. Does your community, Burlington Nazarene Church, relate to any sort of, and the word I used is oversight, which kind of functions in your context, it doesn't in some others, but does it relate to any sort of oversight body beyond your community, and how does that relationship impact the way that your community does ministry?
I'll let you take that one.
Mister, I'm going up to Williamsport to get ordained in the spring, yeah.
If the Lord allows. It's not a foregone conclusion. We are part of a denomination. We are only semi-autonomous in that relationship with that denomination. We have a reporting responsibility, both in terms of the activities that go on in our church, finances raised. We have financial obligations to the denomination on an annual basis that we're held accountable for meeting. We have doctrinal, theological alignment related accountabilities with the denomination, and so those are areas that we only have to the extent that there is even an inclination to go off the farm. It's a very limited a limited option, and quite frankly, I'm very comfortable that we don't go off the farm. In fact, I think the way that we express or are attempting to express, particularly those doctrinal the areas of doctrinal alignment with Western holiness and specifically Nazarene theology, that we're very consistent, even though we don't necessarily use the words, because we find that often doctrinal words get in the way of people's understanding and grasping.
Right.
Having said that, again, we have been afforded a great deal of support from our district leadership. Both our district superintendent, our district secretary, our district advisory board, the district business manager, they get Burl Naz, and they want to see us succeed. That has been said in multiple ways, in multiple venues, at multiple times. They are extremely supportive of Brian's leadership. And I can't think of any kind of significant way in which they have been anything but a support. And so, I would say we have a very healthy relationship. It is you know, I don't try to sugarcoat it. It is a relationship of accountability.
Right.
But I would also say it's a strong partnership, and I think that, you know, we're given the denominational structure and the polity of the denomination. I think we're very, as a local church, very blessed to have the kind of relationship that we have.
And there, I mean, there are parts. I remember you told me a couple times where Brian's kind of gotten used as the token. He's the young pastor, so that, you know, look, we have young pastors. Here's one of them. So there, I mean, that's like any relationship. There's struggles with it. That's fine.
But at the same time, I think it's interesting that, you know, because not so much that we've got results, but that we're showing health, not numbers, but health.
Yeah.
We're getting that support, because in this day and age when churches are starting to take a deep dive, you know, in terms, not just only in terms of attendance, but people's even spiritual health, that, you know, what are we even here to serve anymore? That when, you know, in this case, the Nazarene district sees that this church, who potentially could have gone down for the last time 8 years ago for the count, has all of a sudden, once again, because God is building up his church through the ashes, other people can't help but recognize that, and if they're at all smart, they obviously will recognize that it would be a good idea to support that, you know, even if it doesn't always line up to their preconceived ideas of what a church function should look like. The other thing that's really probably overlooked a lot, except for certain key individuals at the district level, is that, look, these are different times.
Right.
We're not talking about a church that can prosper in the 1950s. This is now a new millennium that has postmodern kinds of challenges to it and all that kind of stuff. So from that standpoint, if you don't really have ways that you're essentially allowing for that to kind of foster, you know, kind of prosper in this particular, you're not really going to get anywhere. So they're very much encouraging of those particular aspects and seeing us in many ways as pioneers. And so from that standpoint, we can only hope that other people will be able to kind of take our lead.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Wes.